You know, when you picture famous French wine regions, your mind probably conjures up images of Bordeaux Chateau or like the
Hmm.
rolling hills of Burgundy.
The classics.
Exactly. But nestled way up in the French Alps, right where France kisses Switzerland and Italy, lies this amazing little-known area called Savoie.
Mm-hmm.
And they're crafting these incredibly fresh and vibrant wines. It's the kind of place that makes you rethink uh, everything you thought you knew about French wine, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And that element of surprise is, well, a big part of Savoy's charm, I think.
Yeah.
The sources we've delved into everything from, detailed regional studies to sommeliers' insightful notes. They paint a vivid picture of an alpine territory with a truly distinctive character.
Okay.
And that taste of place, or terroir, as the French call it, it comes through so clearly in their wines,
Right.
giving them that signature freshness, vibrancy, and remarkable purity.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we've really dug into the heart of what makes Savoie tick. Our research covers centuries of winemaking history in those mountains. The unique alpine terroir itself, think like cool climates and fascinating soils.
Yeah, the geology is key.
The native grape varieties that you likely won't find anywhere else. The ingenious ways they cultivate vines on those steep slopes.
It's a tough part.
The winemaking techniques they use to capture that alpine lightness, the delightful flavors and different styles of these wines,
Oh, definitely.
how they perfectly complement the local mountain cuisine,
Hmm.
and what the future holds for this hidden gem.
So, if you, like many of us, are always on the lookout for something beyond the usual suspects in the wine world,
Yeah, always looking.
then this deep dive is tailor-made for you. We're essentially offering a curated journey into this special region.
Okay.
You'll gain a real understanding of what makes it so unique and why its wines are so exceptional, all without having to spend hours sifting through countless articles yourself.
Our mission today is simple: to uncork the secrets of what makes Savoie such a noteworthy wine region. Especially for those of you who appreciate wines with a strong sense of origin, those that tell a story of their unique environment,
Terroir-driven wines.
and those wonderfully refreshing styles that just make you feel alive. Okay, let's unpack this, starting way back with a history of winemaking in those majestic mountains.
Right. Well, what's truly captivating is how deeply ingrained wine production is in the very history and culture of this alpine region.
Hmm.
Our sommelier source points out that the evidence strongly suggests viticulture was introduced very early on, most likely by the Romans.
Ah, the Romans always planting vines.
Well, yeah. Savoy's strategic location as a vital passage between Italy and Gaul made it a natural place for them to plant vines and, enjoy some local wine.
Makes perfect sense, fuel for the legions as they march through the Alps.
Precisely. And as our sources detail, the Middle Ages were a period of significant growth for winemaking in Savoy,
Okay.
largely thanks to the influence of the Duchy of Savoy, which actively supported and promoted wine production.
Right, so nobility backing it.
Exactly. And religious orders, particularly the Benedictines and Cistercians, played a crucial role.
The monks.
Yes, they were crucial in establishing vineyards and refining the winemaking techniques. They were really the pioneers, figuring out how to adapt to that challenging mountainous terrain
Yeah.
and selecting those early native grape varieties that were best suited to thrive there. You can almost picture those monks diligently tending their vines on those incredibly steep slopes.
Absolutely. It's amazing to think about their dedication. And probably pretty cold.
No doubt. Over the subsequent centuries, Savoie continued to prosper as a wine region. Our sources touch on the devastating impact of the phylloxera crisis in the 19th century,
Oh, right, phylloxera, the big one.
a disease that, as many wine lovers know, ravaged vineyards across Europe. But Savoie persevered and recovered.
Good for them.
And the 20th century brought a renewed focus on quality, culminating in the establishment of those crucial AOCs, the appellations d'origine contrôlée.
Which we'll definitely talk more about.
We will. Think of them as a guarantee of origin and quality, ensuring these wines truly represent the unique character of Savoie.
So bringing us up to the present day, what's the feeling in Savoy's vineyards now? What's the focus?
The overriding emphasis remains firmly on quality. There's a genuine appreciation for those native grape varieties.
The ones that belong there.
Exactly. The ones that have proven their worth over centuries in this alpine environment. And increasingly, there's a strong and growing movement towards adopting sustainable viticultural practices,
Good to hear.
a recognition of the importance of working in harmony with this special place. It's a long and fascinating history, really.
Yeah.
With wine production woven into the cultural and economic fabric of this alpine region for over 2,000 years, that kind of longevity really speaks volumes about the suitability of this land for wine.
It certainly does. Okay, so we've set the historical stage. Now let's really dig into what makes Savoy wines so distinctive. That incredible alpine terroir.
This is where it gets really interesting. Our sources meticulously detail how the Alps themselves are the dominant influence.
The mountains.
You have those consistently cool temperatures, a shorter growing season compared to more southerly regions, and significant temperature swings between day and night.
Right, the diurnal shifts.
Exactly, what we call diurnal variations. These big temperature shifts act like a natural flavor enhancer for the grapes, helping them develop complex aromas and flavors while retaining that bright, refreshing acidity.
Ah, the acidity.
That is a hallmark of Savoie wines.
And it's not just the towering peaks, right? I remember reading the lakes nestled amongst them play part too.
Exactly, you're spot on. Large bodies of water like Lake Geneva and Lake Bourget have a moderating effect on the local climate.
How so?
Well, they help to temper the extremes of both summer heat and winter cold. They also increase the amount of sunlight reflected onto the vines.
Oh, interesting. Like a mirror.
Kind of, yeah. Which can aid in the ripening process, especially in a region with a, shorter growing season.
So a cool climate, tempered by lakes, surrounded by majestic mountains. It sounds idyllic in a rugged and beautiful way. What about the ground the vines are growing in? What's special about the soils?
The soils are remarkably diverse. It's a legacy of the region's glacial past.
Glaciers, okay.
We see areas with glacial deposits. These are stony, well-drained soils with relatively low organic matter.
Right.
Then there are areas with limestone soils, which tend to contribute structure, elegance, and a certain minerality to the wines.
Minerality, like
Yeah.
that stony taste.
Yeah, think of it as a subtle, almost stony or chalky note on the palate. And in other parts of Savoy, you find schist soils.
Just.
Yes, which can impart a distinct minerality along with good acidity and a unique aromatic profile to the wines. It's like the vines are drawing different nuances directly from the earth depending on where they're planted.
So it's not just generic mountain dirt. There's real geological complexity that influences the taste.
Precisely. And if we connect this back to the bigger picture, you can start to see how these varied soil types contribute to the specific characteristics we find in the different wines from Savoie.
You mentioned those AOCs earlier. How do they tie into this story of terroir? Seems important.
They're absolutely central. The AOCs are essentially a way of defining, regulating, and protecting the unique terroirs within Savoie.
Okay.
You have the overarching regional AOC, Vin de Savoie, which covers a broad geographical area and a range of wine styles.
Big umbrella.
Kind of. Then you have more specific AOCs like Roussette de Savoie, which is dedicated to elegant wines made primarily from the Altesse grape, often with aging potential.
Altesse. We'll get to that grape.
We will. Then there's Crêpy AOC, specializing in dry and wonderfully fresh wines made from the Chasselas grape.
Chasselas, okay.
And Cecil AOC is known for its wines made from the Molette and Altesse grapes in both stay dry and sparkling styles.
Sparkling, too. Nice.
Yeah. Each one has its own set of rules and grape specifications, all aimed at preserving the unique character of its particular area.
So each AOC is like a little pocket of terroir with its own distinct signature.
Exactly. And even within these defined AOCs, there's further diversity based on factors like altitude,
Right. Higher up means colder.
which significantly impacts temperature and therefore acidity in the grapes. And the angle and direction of the vineyard slopes, which affects how much sunlight the vines receive and how well the soil drains.
Sun exposure, drainage.
That's clear. And the proximity to those lakes, which can create localized microclimates. So when someone says alpine wine, it's really just the beginning of a much more nuanced story.
Yeah, much more complex.
It's like comparing the terroir to a fingerprint, as we sort of touched on. That specific combination of altitude, soil, and climate really imprints an unmistakable character on Savoie wines that you simply can't find anywhere else.
Absolutely fascinating. Now let's meet the stars of this terroir show, the native grape varieties of Savoie. I'm always intrigued by grapes you don't see everywhere.
You're in for a treat then. First up, Jacquard.
Check out. Okay.
This is truly the emblematic white grape of Savoie. It's an early ripening variety with a relatively neutral aromatic profile.
Neutral. Does that mean boring?
Ha! Not at all. Now that might sound unexciting, but what it actually does is allow the unique characteristics of the terroir, that taste of place, to really shine through in the resulting wines.
Ah, okay. So if the grape itself isn't super aromatic, what do these Jacquard wines typically taste like for someone like me?
You can expect them to be incredibly fresh and light, really zippy,
Zippy, I like that.
with delightful aromas of white flowers and citrus fruits like lemon and grapefruit. They often have subtle notes of white fruits like green apple or pear and that signature minerality we've been discussing,
Right, the stony thing again?
giving them a lovely, clean finish. You'll find Jacquard as the dominant grape in AOC Savoie, as well as in the specific appellations of Chenin and Crépy. It's the kind of white wine that just sings of the mountains.
Sounds like the perfect refreshing white for a sunny afternoon. What about the red grapes of Savoie? Is there a main one?
The key red grape is Mondeuse.
Deuce.
This one's a bit more of a character. It ripens later in the season, has small, dark berries with quite thick skins.
Okay. Thicker skins mean more tannin.
Generally, yes. It produces wines with a medium to full body, noticeable but well-integrated tannins, and intriguing aromas of dark fruits like blackberry, and a distinctive note of black pepper.
Black pepper in an alpine red, that's unexpectedly intriguing.
It is. Mondeuse is a significant grape in the broader AOC Savoie, but it really comes into its own in specific areas like Arbennes and Sergent-de-la-Porte. That black pepper note in a red wine from the Alps is definitely something to look out for.
Definitely making a note of that. Any other key grapes?
Yes, then we have Altesse, which you might also see labeled as Roussette in Savoie.
Ah, Roussette de Savoie, the AOC.
Exactly. This is another important white grape known for its late ripening and beautiful golden-colored berries. The wines it produces are elegant and quite complex,
Complex, okay.
often revealing aromas of honey, quince, that slightly floral, almost apple-like fruit, and even a subtle hint of hazelnut as they age.
Hazelnut.
It plays the leading role in the AOC Roussette de Savoie, particularly in renowned villages like Frangy, Monthoux, Maristel, and Arbignou, and it's also a key component in the wines of Cecil.
Honey and hazelnut in an alpine white. That sounds absolutely lovely, almost like a taste of sunshine and mountain air combined.
It really is. And beyond these three mainstays, there are other local grape varieties worth mentioning briefly.
Okay.
You have Chasselas, which makes light, fresh, and subtly fruity wines, often enjoyed as an aperitif. Bergeron,
Bergeron.
which is a local name for the Roussanne grape you might know from the Rhone Valley.
Ah, Roussanne. Okay.
It produces richer and more aromatic white wines here in Savoie, often with good underlying acidity. Gamay.
Gamay, like Beaujolais.
Exactly, same grape. It also thrives here, producing light and delightfully fruity red wines. And then there's Person.
Never heard of Person.
It's a rarer red grape with a deep, intense color and aromas of dark fruit and spice. A real discovery for those who like to venture off the beaten path. It's like a hidden garden of unique flavors waiting to be explored.
It sounds like a treasure trove of unique grapes, each perfectly suited to its mountain home.
Exactly. And what's truly fascinating for someone like you, always seeking out unique experiences, is how perfectly adapted these native grapes are to the demanding alpine environment.
Right.
They've evolved over centuries to thrive in this specific climate and soil, offering flavors and aromas that you simply won't encounter in wines from other regions.
Mm-hmm.
It really underscores the profound influence of that unique terroir we discussed. It's like they've captured the very essence of the mountains in their berries.
It's like they've evolved to sing the song of the Alps. Okay, so growing grapes way up in the Alps sounds, well, challenging.
Yeah.
What are some of the unique viticultural hurdles they face in those mountainous vineyards?
You're absolutely right. It's not your typical gentle rolling vineyard landscape. It's pretty extreme. Our sources highlight that vineyards are frequently planted on incredibly steep alpine slopes, which presents a whole array of difficulties.
Like what?
They have to contend with significant soil erosion, limited accessibility for machineries, forget tractors in some places,
No.
consistently cooler overall temperatures, and quite variable amounts of sunlight depending on the precise direction and angle of the slope.
I can only imagine the sheer effort involved in just getting up there to tend those vines.
Yeah.
Must be backbreaking work.
It requires immense dedication, and the vines themselves have had to adapt to these conditions.
How do the vines adapt?
You'll often see very deep root systems as the vines search for water and nutrients in those often rocky and less fertile soils. Their foliage might be adapted to maximize the capture of the often intense but sometimes fleeting sunlight.
Makes sense.
And as we mentioned earlier with Jacquard, there's a tendency to favor early ripening grape varieties to ensure they reach full maturity before the early onset of autumn frosts.
All right, got to beat the cold.
Yeah.
So how do they actually manage to cultivate these vineyards on such challenging terrain? What are the techniques?
It necessitates a great deal of intensive manual labor. Terracing is a common and crucial practice.
Building those steps on the hillside.
Exactly, where they create step-like platforms on the slopes to provide more stable planting areas and help prevent that soil erosion. Specific pruning and training systems, like goyo and fan training.
Like shaping the vine.
Yeah, imagine training a vine like a single arm or a fan reaching for the sun. They're carefully employed to manage the vine's growth and fruit production. Canopy management.
Managing the leaves.
Yes, which involves things like carefully removing leaves, is essential to ensure the right amount of sunlight and airflow around the grapes. And soil management often relies on organic fertilizers and the planting of cover crops to maintain the health and vitality of the soil.
It sounds incredibly labor-intensive, a real testament to the passion of these winemakers.
It truly is, and the challenges don't end there. Frost, particularly in the spring when young buds are vulnerable, and again in the fall as the grapes are ripening, is a constant threat in this cool climate.
Always worrying about frost.
The steepness of the slopes can make even routine tasks inherently difficult and sometimes quite dangerous. And of course, climate change is an ongoing concern
Affecting everyone.
that they are actively working to understand and adapt to.
So it's a constant balancing act between working with and sometimes battling the elements.
Mhm.
Is sustainability a big focus?
There's definitely a growing philosophy of working with the elements in a sustainable way.
Good.
Our sources indicate an increasing commitment to organic and biodynamic farming practices, more efficient management of precious water resources, a strong focus on preserving the beautiful alpine landscape,
Protecting that scenery?
and even the adoption of renewable energy sources in their winery operations. It's a holistic approach that recognizes the interconnectedness of the environment and the quality of the wine.
That's great to hear.
It paints a picture of real dedication, cultivating grapes in such a demanding environment. You can almost sense that human effort and respect for the land in every bottle.
Precisely. It really creates a profound connection between the wine, the land, and the people who make it. Now, let's journey from those challenging vineyards into the winery
Okay.
and explore how they transform these alpine grapes into those light and remarkably fresh wines we've been hearing about. I'm particularly curious if their winemaking approach is different, given the unique terroir and the emphasis on freshness.
It is indeed. The primary emphasis in the winery is on preserving that inherent alpine lightness and freshness. It's all about purity.
Purity, okay. How do they achieve that with the whites?
For the white wines, our sources describe gentle pressing of the grapes to extract the juice without being too harsh,
Gentle handling.
followed by fermentation in stainless steel tanks with very careful temperature control.
Temperature control is key for aromas, right?
Absolutely. This meticulous temperature management helps to retain those delicate and primary food aromas that are so characteristic of these wines, often malolactic fermentation.
Mallow, the secondary one.
That's the one. That secondary fermentation that can soften acidity and add a creamy texture to wines is either deliberately limited or entirely avoided.
Why avoid it?
This is a key step in preserving that vibrant, zesty character that is a real selling point of Savoie whites.
Got it. Keep the zip.
Exactly. And there's generally minimal use of oak barrels for aging, again with the aim of allowing the pure fruit flavors and the terroir to express themselves without being masked by oak influence.
So not much oak usually.
Not typically for the fresher styles. Bottling tends to happen relatively early, capturing that youthful and vibrant freshness.
So it sounds like a very hands-off approach, letting the natural qualities of the grapes shine through without a lot of intervention.
Exactly, that's a good way to put it. And for the red wines, the techniques also prioritize freshness and fruit purity.
How about the reds then? Mondoux,
Yeah.
Gamay.
You'll typically see total or partial destemming of the grapes, followed by fermentation in stainless steel or sometimes in neutral cement tanks. Maceration.
The skin contact time.
Right. That's the period where the grape skins are in contact with the juice. Extracting color, tannins, and flavor is often kept relatively short.
Shorter maceration.
Right. This helps to produce red wines with a lighter body, bright, fresh fruit flavors, and softer, more approachable tannins.
Ah, so less extraction, softer wines.
Precisely. Any aging that occurs is usually in stainless steel or in older, neutral oak barrels that won't impart strong oak flavors.
Neutral, okay.
And just like the whites, the reds are often bottled relatively early to preserve their youthful character.
It sounds like the winemaker's role is more about being a careful steward of the process rather than imposing a particular stylistic stamp on the wine. like guiding it, not forcing it.
That's a very insightful way to put it. The focus is really on achieving balance, on allowing the inherent typicity of the grapes and the terroir to speak for themselves with as little intervention as possible.
Makes sense.
There's also a growing and fascinating trend among some Savoy winemakers to use indigenous yeasts for fermentation.
Wild yeasts?
Yes, the yeast that naturally occur on the grapes and in the winery environment. Many believe this adds another layer of complexity and provides an even more authentic expression of the local terroir in the finished wine.
Interesting. More complexity, more place.
Exactly.
So the winemaking philosophy is really about enhancing and showcasing those unique alpine characteristics, that vibrant freshness and purity of fruit.
That's the core idea.
It's a lovely contrast to potentially heavier or more oak-influenced styles you might encounter in other wine regions. I can certainly see why that would appeal to someone like me, always on the lookout for something a little different and more expressive of its origins.
Absolutely. Now, after all this talk about the land, the grapes, and the winemaking, let's get to the most anticipated part: the sensory characteristics and the diverse wine styles that Savoie has to offer.
Finally, this is where we finally get to taste the metaphorical mountain air. So, what can we expect when we take a sip of these Savoie wines? Starting with the whites, maybe Jacquard.
Okay, for the white wines, particularly those predominantly made from the Jacquard grape, you can anticipate aromas that are reminiscent of delicate white flowers, bright citrus fruits like lemon and lime,
Floral and citrusy.
often some subtle notes of white fruits such as green apple or pear, and that distinctive minerality we've talked about. Think of it as almost a subtle, stony sensation.
That clean, stony finish.
On the palate, they are typically light-bodied with wonderfully vibrant and refreshing acidity that really cleanses the palate. They are the epitome of crisp and invigorating.
Sounds like the quintessential aperitif to awaken the taste buds. What about the wines made from Roussanne, or Bergeron as they call it locally? You said they were richer.
Wines crafted from Bergeron tend to exhibit a richer and more aromatic profile, yes, with more pronounced fruity and floral notes.
Like what kind of fruits?
You might detect aromas of ripe apricot, perhaps a touch of honey, and even some subtle herbal nuances, while still retaining a lovely underlying acidity that keeps them from feeling heavy.
Apricot and honey. Nice. And those elegant wines made from Altesse, what kind of experience do they offer? The Roussette ones.
Altesse-based wines, such as those carrying the Roussette de Savoie appellation, offer a more complex and layered character.
Layered, okay.
You'll often discover captivating aromas of acacia honey, the slightly tart and floral scent of quince.
Quince, interesting.
And as they evolve, even subtle hints of hazelnut. They typically possess a beautiful texture on the palate, often with a refreshing yet elegant acidity that gives them a lovely poise.
They sound quite sophisticated and intriguing. Are there any other white grapes that offer particularly distinct profiles? You mentioned Chasselas.
Yes, Gringette, although less widely planted, produces wines with very delicate aromas and a charming freshness, and it's often used in the local sparkling wines.
Ah, Gringette and sparkling.
And then there's Chasselas, which tends to be very light, fresh, and subtly fruity, making it a pleasant and easy drinking choice, often found in crepey AOC.
So a real spectrum of white wine styles, all sharing that common thread of alpine freshness. What about the red wines? What kind of sensations do they offer? Mondeuse.
The key red grape, Mondeuse, typically presents intense aromas of dark fruits like juicy blackberry and black cherry, along with that signature black pepper spice we mentioned earlier.
Right, the pepper.
They can range from medium-bodied to fuller-bodied, often with firm but well-structured tannins that provide a good backbone to the wine.
Firm tannins, okay. And Gamay.
Gamay, as you might already know from other regions, delivers lighter-bodied red wines with vibrant aromas of red berries like raspberry and strawberry, and softer, more approachable tannins. Really juicy and fun.
Fruity and easy drinking. And Pinot Noir.
And Pinot Noir, while not as widely planted in Savoie as Mondeuse or Gamay, can produce wines with delicate red fruit aromas and fine, silky tannins. Very elegant when done well there.
So generally not big, heavy brooding reds. More about finesse, bright fruit, and that distinctive alpine character.
Precisely. And when we look at the overall wine styles, you'll find those wonderfully fresh and dry white wines dominating, particularly from the AOC, Savoie, and Crepy.
The whites are key.
There are also some delightful light-bodied red wines, primarily from Mondeuse and Gamay, And we shouldn't forget the sparkling wines from areas like Aze, which often incorporate those unique local grape varieties like Gringet.
Sparkling from the Alps.
They even have a fascinating and traditional style of making vin de paille, those luscious and concentrated straw wines made from dried grapes.
Wow, straw wines too. That's quite a diverse range of styles coming from one relatively small region.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for someone tasting these Savoie wines for the first time to really appreciate what they have to offer?
Absolutely. When tasting Savoie whites, make sure they are well chilled.
Nice and cold.
To really accentuate their freshness and acidity, use a wine glass that helps to concentrate the delicate aromas. As you taste, really focus on that bright acidity and try to identify that underlying minerality.
Look for the zip in the rocks.
Kind of. See if you can pinpoint those specific floral, fruity, and perhaps even subtle herbal aromas we've discussed. And definitely consider food pairings. These wines are incredibly food-friendly.
Okay. And for the reds?
For the reds, don't serve them too warm, maybe a slight chill even. Pay attention to the structure and those unique spicy notes in the mondeuse.
Speaking of food, Savoy is nestled in the heart of the Alps, so I imagine there's some hearty and delicious mountain cuisine. How do these wines typically pair with the local fare? Cheese overload.
Huh. Well, cheese features prominently, yes. This is where the synergy between the region and its wines truly shines. Savoie cuisine is renowned for its rich and often cheese-centric dishes,
Knew it.
and the wines are remarkably well-suited to cut through that richness and refresh the palate. Think about the classic raclette.
Oh yeah, raclette, love it.
That melted cheese scraped onto potatoes, a crisp and mineral-driven Chinon Bergeron, or a refreshing crepey would be absolutely perfect.
Cuts right through the richness.
Exactly. The acidity and minerality acting as a wonderful counterpoint to the richness of the cheese.
Oh, that sounds like an ideal après-ski treat.
Indeed. And what about the iconic fondue savoyard, that communal pot of melted cheese?
Fondue, classic.
A lively and bright jacquard is a traditional and excellent pairing. Its crispness slicing through the creamy cheese beautifully.
Jacquard for fondue. Got it.
For dishes featuring the local Tome de Savoie or Reblochon cheeses, you might consider a slightly richer white from the region, perhaps one with a bit more body, like a Savoy Chardonnay or Pinot Blanc if you find them.
So the vibrant acidity in the wines is really key to balancing the richness of the alpine food. What about non-cheese dishes?
Precisely on the acidity point. And for the charcuterie that you often find in Savoie, a light and fruity gamay or a delicate Pinot Noir from the region would be a delightful match.
Gamay with charcuterie. Nice.
For heartier traditional dishes like tartiflette,
Tartiflette, potatoes, cheese, bacon.
that comforting bake. A more structured white like a Roussette de Savoie, with its complexity and subtle richness, can stand up beautifully.
Roussette with tartiflette.
Okay, and for a robust poté savoyard, that hearty winter stew, a rustic mondeuse with its dark fruit and spicy notes would create a fantastic and warming pairing.
Mondeuse for the stew. Makes sense.
It's all about finding that harmonious balance on the palate where the wine enhances the food and vice versa without either overpowering the other.
Yeah.
Just remember to consider serving temperatures and using the appropriate glassware to really elevate the entire gastronomic experience. It's a true celebration of the region's terroir and culinary heritage.
It makes you want to plan a culinary adventure to the Alps just to experience these perfect pairings firsthand.
Yeah.
So for those of us listening who are now eager to try these Savoy wines, where can we typically find them, and what does the future landscape look like for this unique wine region? Are they easy to find?
That's a crucial question for anyone wanting to explore these wines. Finding them can sometimes be a challenge outside the region, but it's getting better.
Okay.
Our sources emphasize the vital role of those AOCs we discussed earlier. They are much more than just labels. They are fundamental to protecting the unique identity and ensuring the high quality of these wines.
Right, the quality guarantee.
They promote the singularity of Savoy's terroir, value its distinctive characteristics, preserve traditional winemaking practices, and ultimately foster both economic and sustainable development for the entire region. So that AOC designation is a really important indicator of authenticity and quality when you do find them.
So the AOC system is truly the bedrock of the Savoy wine industry,
Yeah.
guaranteeing a certain level of quality and regional character. Are there specific producers we should look out for?
Absolutely. And there are some truly remarkable producers and iconic labels that are consistently crafting exceptional wines and leading the way for the region.
Lyco?
Names like Domaine Jean Perrier et Fils, Domaine André et Michel Quenard, Domaine Belliard, especially known for Gringet, Domaine Gilles Berlioz. Domaine du Pasquier, and Domaine Saint-Germain. These are all highly respected.
Okay, some names to jot down.
Definitely. They produce wines that beautifully showcase the very best of Savoie. It's worth seeking out their wines if you want to get a true taste of the region's potential.
It's always helpful to have some specific names to look for when browsing the wine shop or online. What about broader consumer trends? Are Savoy wines aligning with what people are seeking out in their wine choices these days? You mentioned freshness.
Interestingly, they align remarkably well with several key current trends in the wine world.
Oh, yeah.
There's a growing global demand for lighter-bodied white wines, for wines that truly reflect their unique place of origin or terroir.
People want authenticity.
Exactly. For wines made from intriguing and less common native grape varieties. For wines produced using sustainable and environmentally conscious practices.
Sustainability is huge.
And for wines that offer excellent value for money. Savoie wines, with their fresh, terroir-driven character, their unique native grapes, and their increasing focus on sustainability, really tick all of those boxes.
That certainly bodes well for their future prospects.
Mhm.
Seems like they're hitting a sweet spot. Are there any significant challenges that the Savoy wine region is currently facing or anticipating?
Yeah.
They can't all be easy.
No, like many wine regions, Savoie faces its share of challenges. One of the most significant is the relative lack of widespread recognition and distribution outside of France and some neighboring European countries.
Getting noticed.
Right. They face stiff competition from more established and globally recognized wine regions.
Yeah.
The ongoing and accelerating impacts of climate change,
Climate change again.
which can affect everything from grape yields to ripeness levels, are a major concern. Labor shortages in the vineyards, particularly for the demanding manual work on those steep slopes, are also an issue.
That tough manual labor.
And there's a constant need for modernization and adaptation in some areas to remain competitive.
So, getting the word out to a wider audience and adapting to a rapidly changing world are going to be crucial for their continued success. What role is wine tourism playing, or could it play, in the future of Savoie? Seems like a beautiful place to visit.
Eno-tourism holds significant potential for Savoie. The stunningly beautiful alpine scenery, combined with the allure of discovering these unique and delicious wines, is a powerful draw for visitors.
Yeah, I'd go.
Developing well-marked wine routes, offering engaging guided tours of vineyards and wineries, hosting wine-related events and festivals, and fostering collaborations with local hotels, restaurants, and other businesses.
Building that whole experience.
Exactly. It can all contribute significantly to boosting the region's economy and raising the global profile of its wines. It's a fantastic way for people to connect directly with the land and the winemakers.
It really sounds like Savoie is a bit of an under-the-radar treasure just waiting to be discovered by more wine lovers, like a secret spot.
That's a perfect and very accurate way to describe it. They are consistently producing high-quality and truly distinctive wines that often offer exceptional value compared to wines from more famous regions.
Good value is always a plus.
For those of you listening who enjoy seeking out hidden gems and appreciate authenticity, Savoie is definitely a region to explore.
So, to bring our deep dive to a close, Savoie is this unique and captivating alpine region with a deep-rooted commitment to crafting high-quality and expressive wines. It's really got its own thing going on.
Absolutely. The key takeaways for you should be the profound influence of the distinctive alpine terroir, the mountains, the lakes, the soils,
The whole package.
the fascinating array of native grape varieties that thrive there, Jacquard, Altesse, Mondeuse, and others,
Those unique grapes.
and the winemaking philosophy that is all about preserving the inherent freshness and purity of these mountain wines.
Letting the place speak.
Ex-
And it sounds like the future success of Savoie wines will depend on finding that delicate balance between honoring their rich traditions and embracing innovation in both the vineyard and the cellar.
Precisely. Tradition and forward thinking, hand in hand.
So, for you, the listener, if you're seeking to explore a truly distinctive and authentic corner of the wine world, I wholeheartedly encourage you to seek out some Savoie wines.
Definitely give them a try.
They offer a wonderfully refreshing and lighter alternative to many of the more mainstream options, providing a genuine opportunity to discover a hidden gem nestled high in the French Alps. And it really makes you ponder what other unexpected and high-quality products might be quietly flourishing in those lesser-known regions around the world, just waiting for us to uncover their unique stories and flavors.
Always more to discover out there.
Always more.